What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Last week, I brought you my 5 fantasy overvalued players for the 2020 season. You can check that video out in the notification above or the description below. Today, I'm bringing you the exact opposite. Today, we're going to discuss my 5 undervalued players for 2020. Before we get started, a lot of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. I post a new video every week, so if you like what you see today, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Alright, let's get down to business. First on my list is Courtland Sutton, pick 512, wide receiver 25. Now, I already did a video on why I am all in on Courtland Sutton for 2020, so check that out if you want the full scoop on Sutton. It'll be in the notification above. A big reason why I love Sutton is because at 6'4", 215 pounds, Sutton is a fantastic route runner. His cuts are very sharp and he creates a ton of separation on his routes. Sutton constantly made big plays in 2019 with Joe Flacco, rookie Brandon Allen, and rookie second round pick Drew Lock. Sutton had 16 plays of 25 yards or more. In Drew Lock's 5 starts, he was responsible for 4 of the 16. Think about it, 4 completions of 25 or more yards in just 5 starts. As a rookie, Sutton was consistently good in 2019, but not consistently great. In 10 of his 16 games, he finished with double-digit fantasy points in PPR leagues. And what makes me the most excited about Courtland Sutton is Drew Lock. He really looked like he's ready to lead an NFL offense, from his 2019 5-game stint. I was very skeptical coming in as a Denver fan and, I guess a scouter. I just didn't think he looked that good. I thought he used a lot of his arm, but he really checked down and didn't always force the ball downfield. But what I also liked is he took a lot of deep shots to Sutton, and I wouldn't say necessarily forced, but really showed a ton of confidence throwing 50-50 balls to Sutton. I believe with Courtland Sutton's ball skills and route running, he will easily become the next household name in the NFL, without a doubt. He is that legit. Next on my list is Brandon Cooks, pick 703, wide receiver 31. Now, Brandon Cooks is headed to the Texans, where 150 targets are left behind from DeAndre Hopkins in that stupid trade. Cooks immediately steps in as the number 1. From the years 2015 through 2018, so 4 straight seasons, Cooks averaged 119 targets, 77 receptions, just under 1,150 yards, and 7 touchdowns per season. Those stats would have given him 232.9 fantasy points in PPR leagues, which in 2019 would have made him the wide receiver 14, tied with his old teammate Robert Woods. I also don't trust the outbreak of Will Fuller. Fuller had 2 big games scoring 50.1, which is crazy, and 21 points even. Outside of those 2 games, Fuller's next highest scoring game was 11 fantasy points. In Brandon Cooks' career, he has 15 games over 100 yards, and of those 15 games, he's caught a touchdown in 11 of them. That's 17% of his career games, with 100 or more yards. And for reference, Deshaun Jackson, who's been a big play receiver his entire career, is at 23.7%. While you have other players like Robert Woods, who's at 11%, and big play target, Tyler Lockett, who's at 10.1%. So we love all these other guys in their current situations with Robert Woods and Jared Goff and Tyler Lockett with Russell Wilson, who is really great, but we really do sleep on Brandon Cooks as being this big downfield threat because honestly, I don't know. He's done it his whole career, and with Deshaun Watson, why can't he do it again? I also don't trust Will Fuller because he's been injury prone. In a possible 64 games, he's only played in 42. That's 65%, while Brandon Cooks has played in 88 of 96 games, 91%, and has only missed 2 games since 2015. I don't see the point in drafting an unproven, injury-prone receiver that is Will Fuller at pick 809 when you can take the shot on Brandon Cooks, who a round earlier has finished as wide receiver 13, wide receiver 10, wide receiver 15, wide receiver 13 in his career, at wide receiver 30 in drafts. It's just a no-brainer. Next on my list is Josh Jacobs, pick 201, RB11. For all the other players I mentioned today, I'm talking about them for PPR leagues, because it is the default league setting on ESPN. But for Jacobs, I'll be discussing, his draft capital in PPR leagues, but I also want to mention his stats in standard leagues as well. In 2019, Josh Jacobs finished at RB21 in PPR leagues and 13th in standard leagues in just 13 games. If you took his averages 14.7 in PPR and 13.2 in standard, and Time that out over 16 games, Jacobs would have finished at 235.7 points in PPR leagues, RB number 12, and 211.2 points in standard leagues, RB number 9. For now, let's focus on PPR leagues since that is the new standard default setup in ESPN leagues. Jacobs was a workhorse back in just his rookie season. He had 15 or more attempts in 10 of 13 games, 20 or more attempts in 6 games. Jacobs also rushed 242 times in 13 games. That's 18.6 per game. Average that out, the 18.6 over 16 games, and he would have carried the ball 297.6 times. That would have been 4th best in the NFL, just 6 carries short of Derrick Henry, who led the league at 303 carries. The bad thing about Josh Jacobs is he didn't have a ton of blow-up games. He only had 3 games over 20 points, but scored in double digits in 10 of 13 games. So he hardly ever gave you a dud week, and he finished as a top 12 running back 5 times, finishing 7th, 3rd, 12th, 5th, and 7th. A big reason for his inconsistency was the lack of receptions. He only finished the year with 20 catches. I think Jacobs can improve as a pass catcher in 2020, and from his film, I think he is a good pass catcher. He's not someone like Jordan Howard or Derrick Henry who are lucky if they can even get a hand on the ball when it's passed in their direction. You know, he is a good pass catcher. Maybe not great, but he can definitely do it. Also, his situation is great. You know, the rushing attempts are all his. Jalen Richard is the most likely player to take touches from Jacobs in 2020. Richard finished with a whole 39 carries in 2019. DeAndre Washington carried the ball 108 times in 2019. 54 of the 108 carries, so 50% exactly, of his carries came when Jacobs wasn't playing. And DeAndre Washington doesn't play for the Raiders anymore. Where Richard hurts is in the receiving game. He had 43 targets, 36 catches. Washington also leaves behind 41 targets and 36 catches. If Jacobs can even get 15 to 20 of those catches, his value will shoot up instantly. Hypothetically, if you gave Jacobs 20 more receptions and 150 receiving yards, that would be 35 PPR points. Add those to Jacobs' projected 16 game total, which would have been 235.7, that would have bumped it up to 270.7. That would have made him the 7th best RB in PPR leagues. Is 20 more catches and an extra 150 yards too outrageous? I think it's easily doable for Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is a really good running back. He has quick, short area bursts to make linebackers miss consistently, amazing balance. That's his big calling card, is he constantly gets hit and bounces off or stays upright and keeps going. And he breaks arm tackles with ease. He's a good pass catcher from his limited targets. If Josh Jacobs drops into the 2nd round, which I think he may drift even farther back, I think you got yourself a great RB to lead your team to a championship. Next on my list is Aaron Rodgers, pick 810, QB 10. Last year, he was being drafted at pick 508, QB number 3. In 2019, the QB 12 in fantasy football was Tom Brady, averaging 16.98 points per game. With that average, Brady was the last QB1, so quarterback 1 through 12. Aaron Rodgers finished the year at QB 10, and he had 6 games above the 16.98 mark. He also had 4 big games, finishing the week at QB1, QB3, QB1, and QB2. There are 3 big reasons why I can see Aaron Rodgers having a bounce back season. Reason number 1, Aaron Jones scored 16 rushing touchdowns. Now, Aaron Jones is a good running back, but I don't expect Jones to score that high amount of touchdowns again in 2020. Reason number 2, Davante Adams missed 4 games. If Adams can play a full 16 games, Rodgers will have an elite weapon at his disposal for the whole season. He missed 4 games last year, and he did play pretty well in those games, Aaron Rodgers did, but still, not having Davante Adams at his full arsenal, it doesn't help. And reason number 3, rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. Now, I know Aaron Rodgers is 36 going on 37 years old. In his career, he has always been a 250, 350 yard rusher and has varied anywhere from 2 to 4 touchdowns a year. In 2019, Rodgers finished with only 183 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. If we brought Rodgers' totals up to 250 yards and just say 3 touchdowns, he would have finished with 307 fantasy points, making him QB number 6. Now, you can't predict rushing touchdowns, especially from an aging QB like Rodgers, but he's too crafty not to up the rushing totals just a little bit in 2020. I mean, once again, upping the rushing totals by, 60, 70 yards, and adding 2 more touchdowns that maybe Aaron Jones doesn't steal, maybe Aaron Rodgers gets a couple QB sneaks on the one. I don't think that's too unreasonable to, expect from Aaron Rodgers, who's done it multiple times in the past. Last on my list is Jack Doyle, pick 1407, tight end number 19. Jack Doyle steps in as the number 1 tight end for what seems to be the first time in his whole career. There's no Eric Ebron, no Kobe Fleener, no Ladarius Green, whoever. There's no one else. It's just Jack Doyle. Philip Rivers is known for targeting his tight ends heavily throughout his career. The past 4 seasons, Rivers' tight ends have gotten 148, 121, 73, and 98 targets. And you have to really factor this in. Hunter Henry is a great tight end and obviously one of the elite guys in the NFL, but he's missed a lot of time in his career. So in the games where he's not playing, why would Philip Rivers target, a backup kind of no-name tight end? So that's kind of why some of the target numbers are a little bit lower, because there isn't a great tight end there. We have seen Jack Doyle put together a great season of 108 targets, 80 receptions, 690 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That would have given him 173 PPR points. That would have made him tight end number 7 in 2019. In that season, Jacoby Brissett was the starter, so it wasn't even Andrew Luck. We have never really seen Andrew Luck have a season with Jack Doyle where it was just Jack Doyle and it wasn't, 2 or 3 different tight ends getting rotated in. A big reason why I like Jack Doyle is they don't really have a red zone weapon. Doyle was targeted 13 times inside of the 20 and 5 times inside of the 10. For comparison, some of the best NFL tight ends don't have that different of numbers. Zach Ertz was targeted 14 times inside the 20, 5 times inside of the 10. Mark Andrews was targeted 14 times inside of the 20, 6 times inside of the 10. George Kittle was targeted 16 times inside the 20, 9 inside of the 10. And Travis Kelce, who's probably the best tight end in the league, was targeted 19 times inside of the 20 and 12 times, only 3 catches though, inside of the 10. Now, I'm not saying Jack Doyle is going to be a top 5 tight end, but a Philip Rivers tight end who has the job to himself and should be heavily targeted in the red zone is way more valuable than pick 1407 tight end number 19. That's not even being drafted in some leagues. Alright, and that's it. Those are my 5 undervalued guys for 2020. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Let me know down in the comments below who you think is being undervalued right now in fantasy drafts, or follow me on Twitter at ebankthetank. The link will be in the description below. If you haven't already, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more fantasy football content. It'll be coming, and I'll see you guys next time.